we shall be looking at the president's 100 days in office. He just marked 100 days a few days ago, and so many Nigerians are still, well, I wouldn't use the word not satisfied with what they're saying currently. Probably some would tell you that it is too early for you to actually judge if the government is doing well, or the government has not really, maybe has not shown that interest in campaign promises. Was other person give with you that the president was from the same party, the former president, expected that we should be having some of their policies like implementation, but that's not what we've seen. We've seen a change in some policies of the previous administration, and now President Bola Ahmed Tinubu came up with policies that have not been too good. I would say good, but not too comfortable for some Nigerians. So this morning I have Ben Agunleye with us, a public affairs analyst. We'll be looking at that this very time from our Abuja Network Studio. Very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Now, like I said in my opening, now I don't know, 100 days, is it too early for us to start an assessment of the president's performance so far?
100 days is not too early, because in the 100 days is when you should have seen foundational things being put in place. So the question over the 100 days will be, is there any foundation that has been laid? And I would say that the answer is yes, within that 100 days.
Okay.
We know we have issues with revenue. Tax is one of the major revenue drivers for the government. Now you have a committee in place looking at tax reform. No doubt about that. Yes, we've had fuel subsidy removal. However, the palliatives or responses to cushion the sudden change had not been gelled. But we know that at least there are moves here and there. We can see some state governments towing the line of the federal government, having put in place buses and a few other things that could help the people. Ministers, yes, that has been all formed, maybe with just a few ministries. Realignment of ministry and functions, that has also been done. So it's more like it to move forward, but you need a team. And I can say that to a large extent, the team is being put in place.
All right, let's take it one after the other. Now, you made mention of the tax reform, about the fuel subsidy, which was one major area Nigeria felt the brunt when the president came into power in May 2029, and that's a major problem of our economy today because of the removal of fuel subsidy, even though some person said it's a kind of blessing in disguise. And then we saw the issue of palliative and how the government went about about 5 billion naira to states, even though they've gotten the first payment of 2 billion naira to each state, like you mentioned. Most of the states have started distributing this palliative. But let's begin with that perspective from the issue of the fuel subsidy removal. We know we said this, the president wasn't the one that removed the fuel subsidy.
Yeah.
But the problem was the way it was communicated to Nigerians. That was what triggered the kind of reactions we're seeing now. Now, would you say that Nigerians are beginning to feel probably the idea behind why the president did what he did now? Or is it too early, like I said, for us to begin to assess these things? Let's begin with the fuel subsidy removal and the palliative distribution.
The key is this. Anything that providing convenience for man is not acceptable to the man. Realizing benefit gains that will fall cannot occur to majority. Yes, it's been removed. Next will be where do CNG. Yes, we are a gas producing nation. Press gas is a good opportunity for us. But I don't see when we will come to the vulcanizer CNG, when you will come to the pepper grinder, the tailor, will take a long time. They will continue petrol. So I think the effort, as I would always insist, remains continuing the existing refineries, have modular refineries. The period for such a modular refinery up to 25 barrels per day will be between 150 and 200 days. Have we put anything in place to do just one? I think the absolute answer is no.
Well, the presidents have said by December we should be having one of the refineries.
That is the refinery in Port Harcourt coming up.
Even though other persons are still questioning how possible is that going to be.
We are saying, irrespective, the four refineries put together at the present moment will likely not meet our consumption requirements in the area of PMS. Modular refineries will be brand new. So you are sure of their performance. You are sure of their delivery. You are sure that there won't be so much shifting of deadlines because you build, you just assemble, and it begins to operate. Individuals can go into it, but I think that should also directly invest in that. Maybe 5, 6, 10 scattered across the country, built, owned by the government, but operated on renewable and revocable contracts by or by people who understand the business. It's been obvious that a lot of businesses run by government had not been properly run by people who were there because they think it's not their private properties. So when government builds them, if you have put some effort in place, by now we'll be saying, okay, in so and so time you will have a modular refinery running in Bauchi. You will have a modular refinery coming up in Ibadan or in Ore, or somewhere at Enugu or Owerri, or even in Eket, or anywhere nearby the coastline. You know that if this operates, number one, because we're talking about petrol. Petrol is the only issue. The price is actually up there. So even if all you could get from the modular refineries is diesel to power, prices must necessarily go down.
Okay, I don't want us to, Ben, I wouldn't want us to dwell so much on only the other areas. Well, like the president said that has made so much in the last 3 months, from especially with the removal of the fuel subsidy and those blockages that have been done in terms of tax collection. Let's look at that area. What could be the reasons for this sudden increase in the kind of money the government is recovering of recent?
At what? Now, number one is this. Our government system is inefficient, and the inefficiencies are still there. And that's clear. So whatever you can do to improve efficiencies down the line must necessarily impact on the life of the people. The naira had fallen. So if you used to have 400 million, now it becomes 700. Ordinarily, the drop in exchange rate means an increase in what you have when you translate maybe from dollar to naira. So even if the earnings have changed significantly, you have 80 to 90 increase in volume because of the devaluation or the loss of value of the naira. Let's not say devaluation because it's not like government pegged it. No. The value, the naira value. So for that, the volume of money will increase. Yes, no more subsidy. It also means that to an extent, over 6 trillion or thereabout that goes away to quarterly will be available in with the government. That revenue is earned, lost to some. Yes, tax reform is coming in, and that things will be effective. We also know in other sectors, there are efforts in agriculture, there are efforts in this area, there are efforts in there. What we expect to see is that those efforts are well monitored. The rains are going to be over. Expect that over the next 3-4 months, the Minister of Works will be able to push all his field staff and the contractors to get more work on the roads. The rainy season for me is not the time to fix road in most parts of Nigeria because of the terrain that we have, of the volume of water that will come, and the other challenges that it will face. But dry season is coming, so between now and April for me will be a right time to begin to assess the needs. It's not about talk. It's about visible increase. Power sector, we've always, as long as there is estimated billing, what you are asking Nigerians to pay for darkness. Until we eliminate estimated, we are paying for darkness. Until people meter, you are permitting still on both sides. On both sides, stealing is permitted. So if you permit paying for darkness and you permit stealing, the inefficiency in the sector will continue. And of course, they need to promote both the mini-grid and the off-grid. It will take TCN, it may take TCN forever to extend their pole and the national grid to some areas. So give them a mini-grid or off-grid. Between maybe the rural electrification project, the community or the state or the local government to say, okay, this cost, so we'll bring it in for individuals, you pay this amount, the state will leverage this for you so that you can get electricity to power your domestic use.
Okay, let me bring you back to tax reform. I know that, like you said too, there is a committee, the Presidential Tax Reform Committee that the President has set up, headed by Mr. Taiwo. Yeah. And we've seen what they've been doing. And one can skip out. You're going to stop some taxes, some areas where the government were collecting tax, and you want to increase revenue. And that has been a recurrent question every time that you will have these targets and then you're trying to give away to some persons. How do I begin to analyze this kind of weapons?
It's give and take, right? Putting adding baking powder, for instance, possibly for bakers to puff puff, is at an extra cost. You could just have fried the flour, the mixed flour, just like that, your dough just like that. That is that when you put in the baking flour, you have incurred more cost, but you're going to get a higher volume. Of what use is me getting 10 naira tax from you, right? And then and that is all that I can get. And then you are busy raising revenue of just 100 naira. If it is possible for me to remove the 10 naira or drop it, and your revenue can go to 10,000 naira, right? You may say part of the government. 10 is lost, is it not? Mm-hmm. But on your part, get 990,000 naira, 990 that you are gaining, or 900 that you are gaining as extra, will go into consumption, right? And people who do those consumption, would they pay VAT or not?
Of course.
So if there is more volume of production, there will be increased level of consumption and performance of tax will still be paid. Maybe now as VAT and not as company tax. Giving tax incentive, therefore, is meant to stimulate production. If we would defend the naira, we must produce more, export more. We must earn more forex. And if the things that are preventing people from going into business allow them to earn forex is luggage, then reducing the tax at the time being would stimulate productivity. And when the economy becomes productive, everybody will earn better, everybody will live better. And then for sustainability, you can now be looking at how to reintroduce some of the taxes in the future. But tax holiday would stimulate production. And if that will be given to people who are into production, not people who are into luxury.
Well, I know that time will not really permit us if we should be looking sector per sector in terms of performance or what we should be expecting from the various ministries that were inaugurated president last month. Let's maybe just create a background before we move on to this very issue. The ministers that were appointed, we now saw a different kind of portfolio. For instance, we are now having coordinating ministers for the economy. Now, it means there are other ministers in other ministries who will also be subject to supervision by the coordinating minister of economy. You know, for instance, national minister of the budget and national economy, economic planning, and then we have arts and creative economy, we have digital economy and all that. Now, looking at these portfolios that we are having with the present administrations, how really do you think they can foster the kind of changes this present administration needs?
You see, in life, there is a realm of independence, there is a realm of dependence, but the absolute adult life is in this. So it is clear here that for the economy, there are different ministries that have roles to play, right? Now, if it is not coordinated, then you have duplication of effort, and then you begin to have what we could call disunited entity. You can be coming out of the same government and be putting out different information and different efforts in different directions. So when you bring coordination, you are now saying, okay, on this area, we are going to collaborate. This is best done by Ministry of Digital Economy. This is best done by trade. This is best done by culture. This is best domiciled in national planning. When that coordination between the 5 or 6 bodies that are responsible for running the economy comes in, then there is effective communication, there is effective planning, there is effective assigning of responsibility among the group, so that I don't go there doing the same thing that you are trying to do. It's like in a game of football, if everybody rush forward to try to score, you end up having an offside. And you may get the goal, but the goal becomes disqualified. Why? Because the efforts were not coordinated. But if everybody in the front line had coordinated, you know, okay, this is the person going for the goal. The rest of us can what? Wait to support him. That is the purpose of having a coordinating minister for something. What the president is actually saying is, if I need any question that relates to the economy, I should not be looking for 7 people to answer. You should give the answer. So which means you have to work, right, with the members of the team in a manner that will bring progress, in a manner that will eliminate inefficiency, in a manner that eliminates needless interagency competition. There are negative competitions that you see in some places. This agency is trying to do this, and then that one, they are trying to outdo them. No, they're working for the same government. Go there with a common front. Bring back the result, and it will be better for it.
Well, in the areas of cost of governance, and we know, like we said earlier, this administration also, people are saying, have the highest so far cost of ministries. Even though some ministries are yet to get substantive ministers. Let's look at the cost of governance. Do you think this administration would be looking into that? That has always been the cry from Nigerians. That's what politicians aim is as far as eating to the little revenue countries, having ministries where you go to and you see civil servants doing virtually the same thing. Sometimes you go, you see them very, very idle in their offices because of duplication of duties.
Well, like you have said something. The question we treated earlier talks about coordinating minister for the economy, is it not? So it means that if they can streamline function, there are staffs that are in excess in some area that should move to some area. There will be duties and responsibilities assigned, and everybody take what their core function is, deal with their core function, and you bring it back to the table. When you come to cost of governance, yes, for me, I think our cost of governance is high, right? At all levels. Even in the sector, our cost of governance, running cost, are high. Directors, chairman, those who are in the private sector knew what goes into servicing and maintenance. So in the public sector, it's about the same. Public sector, what do we do? Even if you reduce the number of ministers to 10 today, right? By the time they are done appointing SAs and PAs and this and that, you will still eventually discover that what? You're spending more. So what do we need to do? Process efficiency. Do you actually need to have 6 cars in a minister convoy? In some part of the world, parliamentarians, ministers go to their office on train. So infrastructurally, we are not yet in most of the places that we should be. I did remember a minister in the year sometimes back campaigning that we should use bicycle. The first time he tried to use the bicycle, it rained. And so he got into the villa very soaked. Now, any private individual do that to his office, how would he change the dress for the day? If you are document, so you will realize that the culture where some of those things operate, they already have cycling tracks, they have a number of things in. But right now, as we speak, the metro line does not even get to Federal Secretariat. It stops somewhere close to the World Trade Center. So how useful is that to a civil servant? Because you get to that point, you need a drop to get to the Secretariat. Why don't you just enter along the house and go to the Secretariat? But assuming that that train line stops somewhere in the 3-arm zone, maybe close to the front of the Court of Appeal, you know that every in the National Assembly, in the Secretariat, in the police headquarters, and that environment can say, okay, from Dubai or from airport or from anywhere on that track, I am parking my car. I am riding the train. I can come out, go do my work, right? Get back into the train and go back to my car. So until infrastructures are in place, you generate your own water, you generate your own light in some cases with your generator or with your solar, You have to sometimes generate your own network. That's why we carry multiple phones in Nigeria. Some people have as much as 4 or 6 SIMs, different SIM for different environments and different areas. So with all those inefficiencies in place, with nobody cutting down on them, you actually cannot cut down on the cost of doing business. You also cannot cut down on the cost of governance. However, if we want government as maybe close to what some people think, we perhaps should think of a system change. Go away from presidential, go back to some form of parliamentary that allows the ministers to be members of the parliament, and the members of the parliament are not ministers, but part-time and not full-time. But are we ready for that, or are we interested in that as a people? I'm not very sure. So it's good to talk about cost of governance, but it's also very apt to think about the fact that the implication that necessitates the cost of governance that we have for now, apart from the inefficiencies. I don't support the inefficiencies. If we can remove these and you run the process through efficiently, right? Whatever cost you have at that point is right.
All right. So okay, let's go beyond 100 days. And now you've talked about areas where government needs to do more in areas of cutting down cost of governance, and talked about the subsidy and all that. But specific areas of interest, poverty alleviation. Well, that's one area that Nigerians, when you talk about empowering people, it's not just infrastructure.
Yeah.
Yes, somebody has to eat before you were able to walk on those roads. Now, what should be the areas of concentration for the administration? We know that all other sectors are very, very important. But going forward, so that maybe by the time we look at 200 days in office, or probably 1 year in office, we'll say the government has done this or done that to impact the life of the citizens.
See, no matter what we have, you see, infrastructure is not the food on the table. When the roads are bad, when the bridges are not done, the food are produced in the farm, they don't come to the street. Not because they did not want to bring them, but because there is no road to bring them. So if the food produced in the farm remain in the farm and rotting, I did a survey with cassava maybe some 3-4 years ago, and you realize that yes, we produce the highest in the world, but our post-harvest wastage on the farm from cassava is more than 50%. And in some cases, it is that the cassava is ready and the flood came. Nobody can go to the farm. When you go back, everything is what? It's rotten. Why? Proper infrastructure, right? If the drainages are right, the roads are right, you will realize that some of the things that are expensive today will not be as expensive as they are. Your farm roads that have locks, you can't go there to bring out anything. So you have to rely on people carry it on their head. So no matter what we say, infrastructure must be driven aggressively. But why that is on, more importantly, is in the area of security. Whatever we need to do to secure the nation must be done. If we need to employ people and put them in the forest as forest champions or whatever name we call them.
We used to have forest guards.
Yeah, you have forest guards. Forest guards are owned by the state, and in most cases, sometimes they are just some retired people. And their job did not include security. They are check, log guard. They don't carry weapon. I'm not sure they are well equipped. I don't know the people you would forest should have up to some commando level, not just a regular police or vigilante training. That's not what you need for the current of the nation forest. And some forests belong to the federal government, not to the state. So in such designation, forest guards as of today are controlled Ministry of Agriculture or one ministry in this. So they cannot really do the extent of land and space that we need to cover. There is a need to look at it differently. I think the National Security and Civil Defense Corps by now have what they call the agro rangers. I don't know if the police had any need that is doing such. I don't know if any part of the military are, but that is done in a coordinated effort. Security is important. Infrastructure is important. If I move place to place, is communication, it's okay. If electricity is there, right? You don't have to rush to the state capital, the city center. You can stay where you are and live your life. So obviously, for electricity, you need, like I said, you need to, over the next 120 days, there should be aggressive of off-grids for places where TCN will go through contracting process and it may take forever. People who do not have national grid right now, if we cannot get somebody to plan mini grid that will be acceptable quickly, put an off, and then in the future, when mini grids or grid come, they will integrate. But you need to for the people, you need to provide transportation.
Okay, as we begin to wrap up our Abuja network so that we'll rejoin Evans in. Let's look at the Nigerian foreign policy. The president just came back from the 20 summit in India, and I know he made a stop at the EU Emirates there when we got that cheering news that ban by Dubai has been lifted, and so many persons are saying it's a good thing for the country. Now, looking at all this, the positive response Nigerians have been getting from that summit, what could you say about the president's relationship with its foreign partners in terms of bringing development and economic growth to Nigeria?
You know, there is the concept of the nation. Is that patriotic? If everybody is putting that forward, then you can always sit down and at every point in time, make Nigeria first when you are negotiating with the next man.
All right, much Ben Agule, thank you for your insights this morning on the president's first 100 days in office and beyond. Thank you again for coming.